Hey, Matt and Andrew. Obviously, we're here talking about our solution PRIMED and, trying to conquer the world. We hear from almost everyone that they desire a single version of the truth for regulation and transformation data and all the value that could deliver. But we're also getting a common question, which is, where do you start? So I suppose the question is, where do we start?
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's the beauty of GDPR for me. It's a program that everybody needs to deliver, everybody needs to do it now, and it captures so much data, or it requires the capture of so much data that can form what I would term the corners of the jigsaw upon which everything else can be laid.
So yeah, that's a good point. And I think the good thing about GDPR is there's lots of angles into it. Some organisations, and quite rightly, are doing data discovery. What data do we have? What's it called? Where's it used, etc. But there's another angle as well. Is what's it connected to? What processes is it connected to? What projects is it connected to? What assets are it connected to? What parts of the organisation? Who's accountable for it? All of that data is equally as important from a regulation perspective. And it's not difficult to get that data together. It might sit in pockets of databases or spreadsheets around the organisation, but just getting the header lines of that information and connecting them is instant value, and it's actually a huge benefit to the business.
And have we got an example of that? Can you share confidentially, obviously, but could you share something?
Yeah. Well, there are examples. We're working in insurance companies at the moment, and they're working through their GDPR, but they're coming out from a data upwards perspective. But what they've realised is that they've got a massive transformation program going on as well. So they're also saying, well, let's refine and make sure our catalogue, the process catalogue's right. Let's connect that to the organisational structure. Let's look at how those projects are interacting with those processes, and seeing that one single version of the truth. And by the way, the truth can be deep, and you can spend a lot of time getting into the depths of truth. But if you start off with a veneer of truth, it empowers an organisation to think a bit more smartly about how it wants to transform or how it wants to deal with the regulatory requirements.
Let's just look at it simply. Accountability. Who is responsible for what process? Who is responsible for which asset? Who is responsible for which regulation? Just viewing that enables you to collaborate more effectively. Identifying processes, what they do, how they're associated with assets, and then tying that up to the different transformation activity you've got going on gives you a sense of the whole thing. You need to do that for GDPR anyway, to do it in a sensible way, but once you've got it, then you can say, okay, AML, or IFRS 9, or whatever it is, you can do the same thing because you've got those foundations. You understand who owns what, how the accountability is measured, and you can start building an operating model that manages regulation and transformation in tandem and delivers no surprises to you.
And one final point I think is really important as well, is that previously there wasn't really a person accountable for all of this arrangement, aligning all of these facts. But now DPOs have to be in place in large organisations as well. There's almost now somebody you can go to who has accountability and the power to go, I need to know this stuff. This is really, really key for me to know where we sit in the kind of that compliance. But also then, as we said, it helps drive other capabilities in the business as well. And
Matt, you keep talking about elephants and biting off more than you can chew.
I suggest you start with the toes.
Everyone's got their own penchants.
What did you mean by that?
Yes, what I mean is that you are not going to do this, and we're talking to some people at the moment that see the vision of utopia, but understand that to bring the hearts and minds along, you need to find an iterative way of getting to utopia. It's clear to see the value. I mean, if you think about a PID process, I'm applying for some budget to do a program. You've got to understand what regulation that cuts across. You simply have to. Yeah. How do you do that without having that data in play? Start with GDPR, we would suggest, because you've got to do it now, and it pre-requires you to capture all that data, and then just pick the next and the next and the next, and the lights will come on.
Absolutely.
Cool. I'd just like to say that that wasn't an advert for Pret, by the way.